Alright guys, welcome back. So we thought we'd just do a quick demo and model some really basic, some smaller parts that might be throwing you off a little bit. And so one of the first things I was asked to do was to work on a trigger. And so there's a couple of different ways that I can make a trigger. I could make a fast, really quick trigger. I could do a bullion out of something, or I could take a piece of mesh and I could bend it and sort of go along one particular way. So let's start with that piece of mesh first. I'm just going to take a box that's right here like this. Okay, and what I'm going to do is sort of dive in here. I'm going to add some subdivisions into that box. And so if I come over here and select on the input selection, I'm going to go to subdivisions and height. I'm going to put a couple, just some basic ones that are in there. Actually, maybe about 7, just like so. Okay, so this is going to be a trigger. You have to remember the part that you're making for your rifle, if it's for your Super Soaker for your toy design, is it going to be a large item or a small item? If it's a really small item, it might not need as much detail because it's going to be a lot smaller and we might not be seeing it, versus if it's a knob that's up on the top that's like the water screw-off mechanism, that might be a little bit larger because that might be something that we see that's really large. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I added those subdivisions in here, and now I'm just going to come over here and I could go to vertices and I could start grabbing some vertices and I can start moving them across. Okay, so I have sort of 3 options here on how I could work. So let me see if I can do all 3 for you really quick. Or maybe I'll just do 2. So here I'm going to take this. I hate when this happens. I have to have something to touch to click back. So I'm going to duplicate this guy, move him over here. Okay, well, maybe I'll just do 3. Okay, so 3 options how I can make that trigger. One is I could come in here manually. I can go to vertices and I could just start grabbing some of these vertices and I could start moving them over like this. And then I could just sort of deselect. I can move these over a little bit more like that, and then I could just keep doing it manually. There's some artists that prefer to do stuff manually. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay, and then even as I'm rotating it, or excuse me, moving it over, I can start to rotate it as well, like so. Okay, and then if I get that last row in there, make sure I have them all correct. Okay, I might rotate that even a little bit more and move it over a little bit more like this. Okay, and then I might move the back of those vertices up like so. Okay, and now I could start to tailor that inward. So I have the base of the trigger, I have the base shape of it, and now it's just sort of, hold on a minute, let's grab these here, let's maybe move these up a little bit, come over like this. Okay, and then if I want to go from thick to thin, it's up to me. I might decide to just have triggers that tend to be really thin, so I could just move those over and I could have a thin trigger. And then once I take this guy and I put that onto a rifle and I scale it down, but the only thing I would hesitate on this is as I come over here and start to scale it, and if I smooth it, see it's really round and it's losing part of its shape. So I might decide to come in here right now when it's in its base mode and add some other edge loops in here. You know what? Something weird happened there. Look at that. See that in the geometry? I moved something and something got distorted, so this is how easy that is to fix. I can use the scale tool. I'm going to go to vertices. Something's crooked. I'm going to select all these vertices here and I'm going to scale them all together. I'm going to come over here, select these, scale these all together. I think what happened is when I moved a selection of vertices, I maybe missed a couple. Looks like these got moved back here. That one didn't move right there. That should be about right there. So that's how I can fix it pretty quick. Okay. Now everything that I just did there, if I were to come in here and add some edge loops in here, so if I go to select insert edge loops, or I have a hotkey, and if I just come over here and put a couple in here like this, oops. Why is it not doing it? Let's try it again. Okay. For some reason I couldn't get, something weird just happened there and I don't know what it is. The geometry changed and it wouldn't allow me to come back in. Let's try that again. There it goes. And if I put a couple edge loops in there like this and then I smooth the object, see it's holding its shape a lot better. And again, it's just going to be a small little trigger. Okay, so that's one way I can do it. That took a little bit more work. Okay, the other way that I could do it is I could use soft select. Right, I can grab something and soft select, pull it the vertices across. Okay, so if I want to do that, if I just go over here to vertices and I double click the move tool and I scroll down here, and if I grab soft select, real quick. And let's say I start by grabbing in the middle here. I'm going to put the bend that's in there. So if I bend that back, you see how it's bending the whole item? All right, so that's another way that I could do it, is I can start with that and center the pivot, and I can bring that back. Okay, I can actually scale it up. I can rotate it a little bit if I like. Okay, some of you rotate your objects to get them to a certain point, and let's say there's something you want to change in that you don't like. Okay, but your pivot is now turned at an angle, and you want to get your pivot to come back. All you have to do is come over Edit and go to Freeze by Type. Where is it in there? Excuse me, Modify Freeze Transformations. I have a hotkey for that. I'm just used to doing Alt F, and what that does is it slaps my pivot back to the world, so now it's easier to move back and across, right? So let's say that that's the direction that I'm going into. I could still come in and use Soft Select. I can grab like this here and see what happens if I start to, move different vertices around. Let me see what happens if I grab these two here. These two right there. Let me see if I adjust the fall off. It's here. There, that's all. Let me get it a little bit more black in there like this. So by adjusting that fall off, see, I might be able to pinch something. You just have to get in there and you just mess with it a little bit. Figure out what's working or not working for you. Adjust the fall off there. So I can create some different shapes. Okay. I might even come in at this point, just turn in Soft Select. I would probably just start with the lattice, which is the third choice. But look, if I wanted to move these over and a little bit, have a little bit of a soft, going from thick to thin. Triggers tend to be thinner at the end and a little bit thicker at the top. Okay. Just like that. So that's the basis for it, right? And again, what happens when I smooth this right now, see, if it's this far away on the rifle and I'm not really seeing that much, I don't want to have those hard edges on there, so eventually I could come in. You could try to put a bevel on those edges and see if that works for you, okay? Or, like I was doing before, is just come in here now, insert a couple edge loops on there. Okay, once I get those and I smooth it off, you can see what my trigger is starting to look like now. See? It's not bad. I have a real simple, easy trigger there. Okay, the other option, which is what I would probably do, because I love using lattices, is I'd use a lattice now. Lattice are key to you developing and making shapes. And so with the lattice, remember to get to them, you have to come over here and you have to go under Animate, and you're going to scroll down right here to, where is it? No, it's Create Deformers, and it's, where is it? Nonlinear Deformer right here. I have a hotkey for this too. Okay, actually, you know what? I haven't showed you these actually right here. My bad. There's the lattice up here. I automatically went down here, and I want to show you this real quick because this is a little tool I have not displayed to you guys yet. So let me show you what happens. I'm going to duplicate this. So there's actually another little trick that we can do here. I have not shown anybody here how to use the deformers yet, okay? So I'm going to show you in a minute. Let me finish up here so I don't lose my train of thought. Let's go back down and do Create Deformers. Let's go to Lattice. Let's pull up that lattice. I have my lattice usually set at 5 by 5 by 5. And if I hit Apply right now, close this window, I have a lattice box around there. Okay, so I can zoom in here, go to see-through mode. Okay, I can right-click on the lattice and I can tell it, now that's the object. Here's the lattice. Okay, let me try to get it in there. Okay, it's not giving it to me. It's weird. Where'd the lattice go here? That's the shape. There it is, lattice point. Okay, so I right-click on the lattice, tell it to go to lattice point. The great thing about doing that is now I can move, instead of individually maneuvering vertices around, I just use the lattice. So look, I only have 5 things to move. I don't have to go in there and move. I can just move that over. I can come over here. I can move that guy over. I can select those. I can move that over just like that. Okay, I can select this top. Right here, I can bring them in a little bit like this. Okay, and I can click on the object and see what it's starting to look like. I can even press it in smooth mode to see what it's looking like, but I still have a lattice on it. Okay, and what I like about this particular lattice is I have these other insertions in the middle there. Do you see that? So I told it to go 5 by 5 by 5. So that allows me to come in here. Hold on, let me get the lattice back. Let's click on here and lattice point. Now what I could do here is I could start to scale these in a little bit. So I'm going to select those right here, and look, I'm going to scale these in a little bit like so. I can scale those in a little bit more. Bring those in a little bit more. Select down here and really start to scale those in like this. So now I have a trigger that's going from thick to thin. It's curving as well. Okay, when I like the shape I want to get rid of the lattice. What I want to do, I want to delete the history of the object. If I delete the lattice right now, if I select this lattice right here and delete it, look what happens. Boom, the object goes back to where it was. However, though, if I select the object, the poly mesh in there, edit, and I go down to delete by type history, the lattice disappears. It's deleted the history, and now I just have the core shape that's there. And when I smooth that, look at that. It's a little too round for me. So let's go ahead. Let's go to Insert Edge Loops, Alt-I, and then click right here. Boom, edge loop goes in there, and edge loop goes there. Now when I hit smooth, see how it holds its shape? Okay. And still I might decide, like, you know, it's a little too straight there. I don't want straights. I want it curved, right? All right, let's do that. Let's go to Alt-I again. That's my hotkey to insert another edge loop. I'll put an edge loop right in there. So now I'm going to go to Vertices. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that little section right there. Close this here. And I'm going to move that back just a little bit because I don't want straight lines. I want to have little curves. And then I can take that guy, move him a little bit. So now I get a little bit of a curve in there. So now when I go to smooth it, you see that I don't have that hard edge in there anymore. So I inserted that edge loop. Okay, so look, now I have, when I click off on an object, I have three sort of different triggers. One, I just move the vertices myself. Okay, this one I started using soft select on. This one I use lattices on. And now this one, number 4, this is something I haven't showed you. So everybody look up here because this is a great tools that are in Maya. Okay, this is under Create Deformers, under the animation menu. We have what they're called Nonlinear Deformers. I'm going to click this open. So I'm going to hit Bend. When I put Bend in there and I look in see-through mode, you see that little rod that's in there? Okay, that rod, I can position it into multiple angles right now. Like if right now it's going along the main axes of the object, right? So if I come over under Input, hit Bend, go to Curvature, see what I just did? I just curved that shape right there with the deformer. Okay, all right. Look, I could even control what's called the low bound and the high bound of the bend. So if I go to low bound and see if I bring this up lower like this, and now I go to curve, it's only going to curve the top of the, see that? Okay, does that make sense? And then if I go over and if I adjust, let's say I bring the low bound back down, and I adjust the high bound and bring that lower, now when I go to curve, it's only curving the lower part. Okay? So that's a great way to manipulate geometry really quick. That was just bend. Again, if you don't like it, delete it. Okay, object stays the same. If I look at the object right now, so let's look at Fleur. Put Fleur in there. Does the same thing. Gives me this interior line that's in there. You won't see it in shaded mode. And if I come over here to Fleur, look at what happened when I click the input selection on Fleur, and if I go to Start Fleur, it flares it out. And it could also taper it in. You see that? So you see how I created a lattice and I tapered in that trigger real quick? I could just go to Fleur real quick, put a Fleur deformer in it, and do it in a second, and it's done. Okay, which is pretty cool. So that's Fleur. All right, now Fleur has, again, I could end the Fleur, start the Fleur at different points. So look at this. I'm stretching it on its y-axis. I can also come over here, see it's on Fleur X. And if I want the Z, I have to go the opposite way, or I could type in the same number on both. So that's pretty cool too. So they allow you to stretch in 2 different axis versions. Okay, now check this out. Let's go to Sign. Oops, select the object, click Sign. You're like, what's Sign? Craziness. See that? Sign is like a wavelength, like an algorithm, but compressed, like your heartbeat. So now I could go in here, and I can just adjust this like this. See this? That's why we use these in animation, so I can put that on a character and make him dance real quick. And set some keyframes, okay? I have the wavelength, which I can go from minor to severe. Now all this, if I go to severe, this geometry can't support the severe right now, can it? However, watch, if I did this though, right? Now if I come over there and I put sine in there, wavelength, amplitude, hold on a minute. Let's go back to wavelength. There we go. See, that can support the geometry because it has numerous subdivisions in there. So I can really get a crazy bend in there really quickly. Some of you guys are like, whoa, that's awesome, bro. Where's the Keanu Reeves voice, right? I'm an FBI agent. Okay, so look, and then we don't like it. Actually, I already deleted let me go back a couple steps. Okay, so if I delete it. So, and then there's twist. Twist is awesome too. Check this out. You can select an object like this, put twist into it, and then you go up into the twist settings, and then we go to start angle. Right, and see that? Create a drill bit real quick. You can start to twist the object. So how am I twisting it? Just like I did before in input, I'm selecting here, middle mouse drag. See that? That's pretty cool. And again, the geometry is going to limit the amount of twist. So that's pretty good right there, having a twist like that, right? And I could control the end angle, the top angle instead. Okay, there's a low bound and high bound on there. So I can have the bottom not be affected. And now if I do it, it's just going to affect the top part. You see that? Okay. So low bound and high bound on that as well. Okay. And then if I click off of that, let's delete that. And if let's select the object, let's put a wave in there. And the wave is sort of the same thing. Now this is what you have to watch. You know what? Hold on a minute. Let me come back to the wave. I really don't use the wave that much. It's almost the same thing as the other one. Hold on, amplitude. So it's not working right now because the wave is going against the long axes of the object. So what I have to do is rotate this. Okay. 90 degrees exactly. So I'm going to type in -90 right here. And once that's in at 90, now look at what happens when I use amplitude. See that? It puts a whole wave in there. Then I can adjust the length of the wave. That's like no wave. And then the more I start to address it, you're like, whoa, that's so cool. That is, because you can create some pretty cool shapes very quickly. Here's your customized trigger for Fancy Dancy Rifle, right? But those are just basic deformers. Okay, those are there under sort of where the lattices are. Okay, but again, if I delete that deformer, the object goes back. So if I want to keep the object in that shape, I select the object, edit, delete all by type history, the deformer is gone, and now the object retains that shape. But you need to think about the object that you're trying to make. Okay? All right, so someone was asking me, what's funny about this, Matt, you were asking me about making, Sam was asking about a trigger and you're asking about the pad for the shoulder, right? They're sort of the same shape. So now that I have the trigger, look, if I just duplicated it, went like this, and inversed it, I have the shoulder pad. You see that? So it's the same principle. If I want to make the shoulder pad, I can just start with something. Now, here, let's try. Here's another. That's the thing about Maya. There's always like 20 approaches to do, right? What if I did something like this? What if I start off with this shape right now? And let's come over and let's put some subdivisions in the height, right? And then I decide to come over and take a cylinder. I'm going to turn the cylinder. I'm going to do a bullion into the side of the, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and take this object right now. I'm going to shrink the scale down. I'm going to sink it into here like this, right? And difference. Okay, do you see that? So I just did a bullion on it right now, but when I smooth it, what's going to happen? It's going to turn a little blob, right? So after it's done, I could then come over here and I could say, oops, let me delete. There it goes. Insert edge loop. Put a couple edge loops in there. And now if I go to smooth it, so I need to see what it's doing. Now it's having a little bit of a problem right in there when I smooth it. And that's why. So the bullion, do you see what happened there? The bullion took the geometry of the one object and it didn't match completely the other object. So you see the vertices? Does that make sense? The the topology mesh of the cylinder made a vertice here, but the natural vertice was here. Because of that, when I went to insert an edge loop, it won't let me insert an edge loop anymore because it ends right here. Does that make sense? So that's the downfall of using the Bullion at times, is that you're just doing two shapes real quick and it can mess them up. That's why I would probably just create the shape itself, okay? And if you wanted to be really complex, right? I worked with a guy that used to do this all the time. He would start with a box, and he would come here, and we'd go like this. He'd go to face, or actually, hold on a minute. Let's go to, he would start off with the subdivisions in there. So let's go to, I think it's going to be width that we want here. Nope. Depth. He would start with this, right? And he would come over here, and he would go to vertices, and he would move these vertices over to there. That's this hard edge, right? He'd move these vertices over like this. Okay, get about the same placement. And then he would leave a row in the middle sometimes. Okay, and then he would come over here to face, and he would select all the faces on the top. Okay, he would delete those faces, and then he would come over here to edge, and then everything he would do would be extruding. We just extrude, 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 and extrude the edges out. Okay, so look, if you look at that object now, I have the support for the edges, the edge loop already in there. So now as I start to model, if I come over here, right click, and I go to edge, and I select all these edges right here, and I come over here, so you'd have just the edges selected right there. And if I go to extrude, now I'm going to be able to extrude up and pull just the edges like that. Oops. See that? And as I do that, now I can start to alter them and bend them, and I can look at that in a smooth node. See that? So now it's smoothed. So as I keep extruding, I'm making the object. I'm creating it while I'm watching it. So if I continue to extrude, now look at that. When I use their arrows, it's messing up. That's because of the object history. That's when I click on the other arrows that are in there. And see, now I could really start to create some different shapes because I'm looking at it smooth. And part of that was the benefit, the decision in the beginning to put the two edges on there. Now I can see the object, what it looks like as I'm creating it. Okay, so that's a whole nother pathway. So now I could come over here, go back to this mode, and move these vertices a little bit closer. We're making a trigger, okay, or a pad. Say about here, and then I'm going to go to smooth it, and then see what else I want to add or manipulate. Okay, so what if I start to move these vertices back a little bit like this? Okay, and then I'm going to select the edges again. Go to edge, select all the edges there, deselect those edges there, so only the end selected. Go to extrude, take your arrows, and if I pull that up, see I can make all kinds of neat, I can even start to rotate it. Okay, so see, Matt, how it's starting to look like it'd be a cool shoulder pad. Okay, so that's another option. And then once I get to about here, somewhere about like this, okay, let's say I decide to bring it down a little bit. So I extrude it again. It's pretty cool because look, you can just keep extruding and extruding and make all kinds of really neat looking shapes. Okay. And if I go back to 1, that's what that shape really is right there. Then what I can do is I can fill hole. So to fill the hole, I just have to select one edge. Select that edge. I'm going to go under, back to polygons. I'm going to go down under, I think it's edit mesh. Maybe it's mesh now. There, where is it? Fill hole. And it filled the hole. However, when I fill the hole, I don't have another set of vertices going along there, right, to match. So to do that, it's really easy. If I come over here and I go down under Edit Mesh, if I have the split tool, hold on, I haven't used this for a while and I'm zoning out. I used to find it, and hold on a minute. Let's go back to perspective view. I have a hotkey for it. I haven't looked it up in the menu forever. I need to find it really fast. It's Edit Mesh, and it's cut faces and insert. And I usually have a hotkey right here for it. Let me find it. It's not merge vertices. It's not edge, collapse. It's not it. Not selection of edge loops. That. Gosh darn it. There it is. Split polygon tool. Let's see if that's it. No, that's going to be... Yep, that's it. So if I go and find the split polygon tool, let me show you what I just did. Okay. So to find that, it was right here. If I look under that mesh right there, and if I look down there and find split polygon tool, which is, where is it? Interactive. Here's the pane. That's why I hate looking at this. Why I don't like to use the menu bar that much, and you just get hotkeys for stuff and you remember your hotkeys. So it's in there somewhere. Or you could just hit that little tab right there. Okay. But what this allows me to do is basically I can come in here, touch here, slide a vertex over to there, then go to this side, touch here, slide that vertex to there, and then hit enter, and now it's connected those two lines for me. See how I did that? So I'll do that again on this side here, because I closed that face, right? And when I smooth it, see, look at the difference when I smooth it. This side isn't quite as smooth. That's smooth because it has that edge line, that connection in there from vertex to vertex. So click on it right here. You touch, it gives you a green dot. You can move that dot, and then you bring it to the end. And then where that's done, you come over, you touch where you want it to go. You touch it there, bring it to the end. You hit enter, and now it officially merges and inserts that edge in there. So when I look at this, this is now one piece of geometry, except for the middle part. I haven't done that either. Okay, and you can notice the difference, because look at this smooth right here. That will hold its shape more. You see that? Nice and crisp. But look at this end. There's no edge in there. It's a little sloppy. So all I have to do is come back here again, zoom in, go to there, grab another one, slide there, hit enter. Now when I go to smooth it, nice and pretty. See that? And I could create a really cool looking shape. And again, if it's back into this mode, rough mode, go to vertices, Matt's like, yeah, but that's not the shape I wanted. Well, that's okay. All you have to do is you come back in here and you can just move your vertices around. Nothing's official. But what was cool about this method that I liked that my buddy used to do when he'd start is he would start with those, you didn't have to come back and insert those edges. He had two lines next to each other. And those two lines being close to each other immediately gave him a hard edge when he would go to smooth something, right? So you need to think about that. So if you wanted to have like a super hard edge, he could have started, so watch, if I wanted to, this is a great thing about, you can take geometry and reuse it. I could take that geometry there, I can go to faces, and watch, if I delete all these faces right now, I have another piece of, I can start from that mesh again. I can select all the edges and start. Let's say I wanted to come in there and put another edge loop in there really quick. I could manually do it by hitting up here, by touching the split polygon tool. If I click right here, and if I come over here, so this is used quite often for doing like eye sockets on faces and other type of modeling. I never had the patience for it, but so look, if I do that, hit enter, those are officially in there now as vertices. So if I come back over, split polygon tool again, I touch here, I go down to there, touch there, bring that up to here, hit enter. Now when I go to smooth that, now I have two sets of edges next to that, right? So what's going to happen? That's really going to start to hold a nice edge on it, much more crisper edge on it. Now I could come back and just select the top edges. So select all the edges in this view like this, boom, right? Then you hold control, deselect these, so you have only the top loop right there, right? And now you're ready to start extruding again. So I can come back in here, I can extrude this way, extrude again, extrude again. Uh-oh. So that's why sometimes the history gets involved and I just use the normal arrows. Okay, just like that. So look at that shape there, Matt. You see that? And now when I smooth it, I have a nice smooth shape. And even though it's not quite rounded there, that's an easy fix because all I have to do is come back to this. I can see why it's not round there. Why? I don't have the equal amount of divisions between spaces. So if I grab these vertices right here, and if I pull these up in the middle, about right there, and get them where they look pretty proportionate, and now smooth it, nice and round curve. See that? Okay. So whatever my object is in rough mode, I always try to have my spaces between each other be nice and segmented. And when I say segmented, nicely spaced out between each other. And there's a reason for that. Okay? Because when it well, there's two reasons. One is it translates right now when I go to smooth it. And the other reason is that when I go into texturing, we usually do that in the other class, but if you get into the texturing side of things, when you unwrap, this isn't the fun part, right? But when you unwrap the texture, when it's all in equal proportions, it's a little bit easier to paint and put back on. But that's a little bit more complicated stuff. I don't like to get into that because I introduced texturing once into this class and everybody went like this. The morale just dropped because it's not as fun as getting to design and make things, right? And that's why we get to cheat and use some shaders, you know? So anyway, that's sort of our basic, approach. So someone was asking me about a grip. Let's make a grip. Okay, well, what shape is a grip in? Could be in a cylinder. Oh, not that large though. So let's just take a cylinder here. Okay. I'm going to come in here. I'm going to scale this up, and I want to go in here. And I want to place some subdivisions for the fingers to come through. So let's come over here. Let's go to subdivisions of height. There. And you got to think about this because students tend to start off and they go, well, I got 4 fingers. I'm going to put 4 subdivisions in. But no, where you have a curve that comes in, I'll draw this on the board. Okay. When you make a grip, where this indents, right, for those 4 fingers, you have to have supportive geometry that's supporting the edge of the curve. Does that make sense? So that's going to support curve, support curve, support curve. This is why you draw it out. So now I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 vertices at a minimum. In there. Does that make sense? To hold the shape of that curve. Okay, so now I can do that. So I can come over here and check. I put 9 in. I'm going to slide and go a couple more. I always like to put 1 or 2 extra. Okay, so now that I have those, I could come over here. And this could be a good option where I could use soft select too, because I could see how it can affect everything in there. Or I can use a lattice. It's up to you. In Maya, there's multiple ways to model and make something. You have to try to find the best approach to what's going to work. So let's just curious. I want to see what happens if I use soft select in this. Okay, let's scroll down here. I'm going to turn on soft select. What I'm going to do is I'm going to try to come over here and grab a selection of about, you know what, before I can turn off soft select so I can see exactly what I'm selecting. 3 vertices right there. So now I'm going to remember that. I have a supporting edge, and then I have the edge where the fingers hit there. Do you see that? Another 3. I selected a 4th there by accident. So then I'm going to skip. I'm going to come down to here. Select 3. Okay. Oops. Make sure I have those 3. I'm going to skip one again for the next finger here. I'm going to select those. Sorry, I hit shift. Make sure I only have 3, 3, and 3. Do you see that? So I have 1, 2, 3, and 4 right now for my 4 fingers. And now when I hit soft select, see what's happening? Starting to get that grip feel. However, I need it to happen sooner than later, so I'm going to adjust this a little bit more. Okay, it's still quite not there. Maybe I don't even need soft select on this. Maybe just a little bit more. Now when I smooth it though, let's take a look at what's happening. Oh, if I pull out, that actually looks a little bit better. Okay. That's one approach. You can start with that, keep it rough, go back in there, okay? I personally don't like to use soft select that much. Sometimes it's okay. But I would just start taking some vertices. I would start from about the halfway point, like here, and right there, and right here. Okay? And I just like to use the scale tool. I would start to scale some of those in like this, and I would start to bring them back a little bit so I get that indentation that's working like that. You see that? And then what I can do is I can always, if that's not quite what I want, well, look at it smooth. See, now I have that grip feel. Okay, so I just grabbed part of those, and let's say I wanted to make that handle a little bit more, it's getting too thin. But actually I might like that. I might be like, okay, that'll be the front handle, then I'm going to have a rear handle by the trigger, but the one in the rear is a little wider. So this one in the front is the one you grab like this, and the one in the rear might be wider, right? So I'm going to keep this one. Remember what it looks like, smooth. Okay, come back to this one now. I'm going to grab the other half of the vertices like this. Okay, check through, make sure I have them all. And see, now if I pull those out, okay, and what's cool is I just put a lattice on the back end of those vertices only. See how I did that? I selected the vertices only. Now when I put a lattice on it, it's only going to affect the back. So I can put a quick lattice on it. Oops. Lattice point. Because remember, this is going to be wider in the back now. See? I don't have to get in there and move. I just have to move 5 or 3 bars. Let's say I want it to bend. Like that. Okay. Select the object, Alt History. And now if I hit 3, that's my grip, or the direction my grip's going into right now. Okay. Since it was a cylinder, I have all this mesh that comes up to one point here. If you don't like it, you can delete that and just converge it into a box if you want. What I mean by that is we could just do this. We could go to face. I can select all those faces up there. Delete just the top row. I can go to edge. Select all the edges now, like this. Deselect these edges right here. And then I can extrude. I'm going to put a little edge on there. Get an edge there. Bring it down just a little bit like that. Okay. And then I do it again. Actually, that's sort of cool. I like that. Let's see what happens if I did that. What if I go up a little and then start to extrude in a little bit like this? I'm going to put an edge there to hold it. And then I'm going to extrude again. Bring it into there. I'm going to put an edge in there, so I extrude it again. See that? Little edge. And then extrude again. And come up. And then this will finish up like that. So let's say that was part of my design on my handle now, right? So when I smooth it, sorry, let me click off. See, I have that nice little edge on there by putting those edges real close together by extruding it. So when I extrude it, I pulled out just a little bit so I could have this. Another edge close to it. So that's the golden rule. Whenever I have 2 edges real close to each other, it's going to hold its shape. If I put 3, it'll really hold its shape. Okay? And that's how you can get some nice round corners too. So I did that here underneath. I put 2 there, and then I went up and rounded it. Okay? So look at what happens. I get that nice edge on there, and then I have that grip that's coming through. Right? And you might even decide like, oh, you know what though? It's still a little... See how when I click off of it, see how the geometry has a little bit of weirdness in there? That's because there's lots of curves happening. So when I come back to my primary shape right now, I only have 1 edge loop in there. I might need to come in here and say, I want you to be nice and pretty. I want you to be pretty girl. Right? So look, if I come in there and I put those little edge loops in there, like so, okay? And now this is where I would use the scale tool as my friend. Okay, I'm going to select, let's go to vertices, and I don't want to mess with anything back there, that's fine, but I'm going to select this half of vertices right here, and what I'm going to do is see if I can move them back a little bit to get more of a bend in there, just like that, and then I'll select that half right in there. I'm going to move them back a little bit like this, and see what I've done? I've put more vertices in there to brace the curve, so now when I go to smooth it, look at the difference. That's a lot smoother in there as compared to what was up here. Actually, I already put them up in there. Just putting them up in there makes a difference. But see how that curve is really nice? So if I just come back to these now, I haven't moved these over, so I can do the same thing. Let's go to vertices. Oops, sorry. I keep hitting the wrong key because I'm not looking up. There we go. I wanted to go to 4. So I want to grab these vertices right here. And then I'm going to go to grab these vertices here. And I'm going to move them back. Just a little bit like that to get more of that curve happening in there. That nice little curve in there. And I could do the same to all of them at one time. Watch, I can select all those. I can select those. This way they're all uniform and they're all the same, right? I can select those and select those. See that? Now I can just grab them all and move them back so they're all sort of identical in the right place. And then when I hit smooth, I start to get a really cool looking shape on there for a grip, right? Now if I look at the back here, and I go to the rough mode, I have some adjustment to do because it's basically straight down and then across. See that? So if I get back there and if I really wanted to have a cool looking handle, I need to, that's straight and that's straight. If I move some of these vertices and get more of a natural curve, let me delete that. That's going to make a huge difference. So I can do that really quickly here. I can just go into vertices right now and I could say, okay, everything from here over. So I work. Deselect that guy. Uh-oh, look, I moved one back there by accident earlier. When did I? Yeah, I must have did that. So to fix that, I'm just going to take my scale tool, scale them all together, and then slide them back over where they should be in a straight line. So I did that when I was working on the other side. I didn't check going through, and I had some crooked. So now let's come back over here, right? My goal right now is to take some of these and get them just to bend out a little bit more. So I'm going to start just to try to get a natural curve flowing in here. And it seems like it's tedious because I have to select almost every one, but that's fine. That's really not that big of a deal. Okay, now what I can do is I'm going to, since all these have to go and be moved, I'm going to do it in the process of selecting all of them. I'm going to move like that out, like that. You see that? And then when that gets to there, I'm just going to hold down Shift, Control. Oh, I did have Control. I use Mac and always get them mixed up. And then every time I deselect, I'm going to move it a little bit more. Hit Control, deselect, move a little bit more. Okay, and see that nice curve that's coming in there now? So I'm going to hold down Control, deselect, move that over a little bit more, deselect, move that over a little bit more. Now I have a much more gradual, continuous curve. Before I had this, a straight line, a straight line, and a straight line. But now that I have those cool curves in there, okay, when I go to shaded mode and I look at that, and I smooth it, click off of it, see how nice that curve is in there? And then here it gets more straight edged in there, okay? And then what's cool, look, deformers. Remember we talked about deformers a little bit ago? So if I come over here, and I come back under the animation submenu, and I can come back up under create deformers right here, and go to nonlinear deformers. I'm going to go to bend, and look, it already puts it in the length, the vertical way matching. If for some reason you're working and you get this, and you insert it in, and you get that, you just have to turn it. Because what's going to happen now if I go to do a bend on that, and if I go to curve, it's going to bend it the wrong way, right? So I just have to take that deformer, turn it up this way, make sure it's at 90 degrees, matching the main axis of the object. The longest length is that axis, right? And now when I come in here and curve, it's still going the wrong way. So that's actually a good example. See, it's curving the wrong way. See that little curve on there? It's telling me the direction it's curving. So what I have to do now is take that curve and rotate it 90 degrees. And where I saw that happen, I'm going to type in -90. Now when I come in and tell it to curve, it's going to curve the way I want it to curve. You see that? So I can put a little curve on it like that if I wanted to, or however you want to customize your object, right? But you see how cool that is? So I can model something and then just put a light curve on there and use the deformer, and I end up with a pretty cool looking shape. Or maybe that's not it. Maybe you decide, you know what, I want to go from thick to thin. So that would be Fleur. So let's go over, create deformers, nonlinear. Let's come down to Fleur. Okay, let's select Fleur option. Let's see what happens. Where is it ending at? Let's see Z. Okay, that's not what I wanted. So let's try, there it is. But I wanted the opposite direction. See that? So I just made it get thin down there, and then it goes thicker up top. So if that's X on the bottom, the top is going to be Z. Other direction. There. Wait a minute. Like that. See that? You can create another really cool looking shape by modifying that. Okay? Not that that's really doesn't really look like a grip anymore. But you guys get the picture. Okay? Alright, and then what's cool, you can really come in. I have a hard edge right there because I grabbed those vertices a little too close. So I could select that edge, and if I bring it back, it'll lighten up part of that curve. So let's see if we can do that real quick. So I'm in the rough mode here. So let's go down, go back to polygons. Let's go to select. Let's try edge ring. And if I double click here, it went the other direction. So let's try select again, edge loop, and click here. There it goes. See, it selected it on one side, and I'm going to hold down shift, select it on that side. And now what I'm going to do is if I pull that back, go to the smooth mode and look at what happens. All right? And if I pull that back a little bit, see, it releases a little bit of that tension that was in there. Okay? But then sometimes you could do something like this, where you come in like this, and then you want to put something really cool, right? So let's see if this will work. Face, face, and face. We'll do one at a time. And let's see if I can match it on the other side. It went 1, 2, 3. So let's make sure there's nothing else selected, right? So I'm going to go to extrude, okay? And it gives me that arrow's already crooked because it can't read the shape right, so I'm just going to use this one here. I'm going to do one side first. So I'm going to try to make a line in there first. You see that? Make an edge. So I'm going to extrude that in just a little bit, like about there and about there. And I'm going to extrude it again. Go back to see if it's doing, oh, it's doing the opposite on the other side. So that's where I have to, it did the right thing in the beginning. This is where I have to use scale because it's going to scale from the center. So I'm going to scale it in right there and right there. Do you see that? And then to hold that, I'm going to extrude it again. And then I'm going to just bring it in a little bit more like that. Okay? And then what's cool, when I click off of that, I just put some type of detail into my handle. So when I smooth it, look at that. I have some type of little element in there. Now, I might decide that that's not, I don't want it to be, I want it to make a little bit of grip, but that's too far, right? So let's just select the vertices real quick. A little bit too much detail, so I have to go in and select all of them like this. And I know I'm selecting other geometry on the opposite side. I'm going to fix that in a minute. After I select all those vertices that I want, I go to this see-through mode, I hit control, and then I deselect all those right there. So now I have all of these selected. And the reason for that is now I could come over here. Let's do the other side too really quick. Okay. Select these, those, and those. Go to see-through mode. Make sure I don't have anything else. I have some selected there. Hold control. So now I have just the vertices there selected, right? And I can scale if I go to smooth now. See, I can scale those back out.
You've got some other ones.
Oh, you're right, I do, right there. So I didn't check on that side. Thank you, Lexi. I'm going to deselect these right there. Oops. There and there. Now I have just the ones up here. Okay? But what's cool is now when I come over here, look at this, and I pull this out. See, it's just a little grip indentation now. It's like a cool little texture. Do you see that? So when I click off of that, see how awesome that looks? And if I did that there, now I could go along my grip and I could do that at every little segment if I want to. Pretty neat, huh? And now I have a little detail that's put in there. And I might decide like, oh, you know what? That's a little too hard-edged. I didn't want it that hard-edged. That's fine. It's hard-edged because I put those edges in there, right? 1, 2, 1, 2. So if you want to delete one of those, come into Edge, and we can go through here. Let's see if we can select it. Select, and let's go to Edge Ring. Double click right there. Nope, it goes the opposite way. Select. Let's try Edge Loop. Double click. And you know what? I hate it when it does this. Mine is not deselecting, so I have to click off of it, go back to Edge. Let's go to Select again. edge loop, double click these edges in here like this. Look, it did it. And so it has them all selected. I'm going to hit delete now. I'm going to go to vertices, select the vertices, just drag over, and then hit delete again. It's totally fine, okay? It has, why is there a curve in there too? So what I did is I deleted that edge, so now when I go to smooth it, it's not as hard edged as it was before, okay? That's pretty cool. That's our, basics, and I could get in there. I can put a lattice on it real quick, go to lattice point, and then I could start, let's try that again. I could start manipulating a little bit. I could say, hey, I want this thing curving a little bit, so I can bring that down, over, a little bit like that, and then I can select these here, bring them over a little bit. Try to keep the spacing so it doesn't get too distorted, And next thing you know, you create a pretty cool looking little modeled piece. So if I hit Alt-H, look at that. Got a nice little grip there with some little detail. And now I don't want to do it in the demo because it would take forever or longer time, and I just want to wrap this up already at 50 minutes. But look, if I put that little piece in there, and I'm in the low poly mode here, I can then put that in here, here, and here. And when I'm done, I have a really cool looking handle right now. So this is what when I was talking about making complex shapes, right? Not making primitive shapes anymore. We're dealing in this right now. That's part of the goal as you guys move forward, is spending more time making more complex shapes and not making all these, just like a curve of a cylinder. You know what I mean? It's really a bullion. That's 2 moves. This took me numerous moves to get to that, but look at what I end up with. I end up with a really cool looking model right there. Okay? All right, I'll end the demo right there, and I'll get it rendered for you guys. Thank you, and be right back.